All right, today's topic is what I call data tricks. Welcome to Z School number 11. This is kind of a potpourri of things you might not know that are in Zoho CRM. First one I'll show is called the timeline. Been there for a while. It recently moved. This is a demo database, so it's not touched very often. We have some sample data in here. If I pull up any record in Zoho, you get what's called the overview view, which is the default view. It's your data. The timeline tells you what's been happening with the data, who's been touching it. And so this record was created February 27th by Homer, and an image was added on March 4th. If I come in here and change an email address,
new employee.
It will say email was updated from blank to Homer, and then currency is Canadian dollars. Look at that. We had currency turned on, and Homer did that now. When the record is touched, you'll know what the field used to be and who did it and when. It will also, if there's workflow that touched it, it'll tell you that workflow touched it, and sometimes workflow might touch it. In other words, we have workflow that says we're going to send them a birthday card in a week, and we're waiting for that week to happen, for that date to happen. That will be in the upcoming actions. So you can actually see if your workflow fired. Sometimes you might have a workflow that says, you know, if I close a deal, I want to update a field to sold on the contact, add them to a newsletter list. You want to see if all that happened or not. You'll see the workflow touches in here. So quite often what happens is people say, hey, somebody changed the contact owner, you know, from Homer to Bart or standard user. Again, if I change it, who changed it? Oh, this right here. So every time the record's touched, it's in the timeline. It's a good feature to find out how a record got the way it got. And people say, oh, I didn't do it. Well, yeah, you did. It's right here. It leaves fingerprints. The next thing is you might want to know, well, I don't want to have to look at each record to see if anybody's been touching it or not. I just want to know at a system level what's been happening to the database. That is available to administrators over here in the setup. Down under data administration, go away. There's a thing called the Audit Log. And this is a real-time journal of what's been happening to the database. So today, Thursday, April 30th, Homer updated a contact and changed the ownership. And then, of course, the last time anybody touched this database was last week when Homer added a job, added a widget for weather. So again, I can come in here and say, Matt Begley entered blueprint. So we had a blueprint turned on and this lead joined into it. Here's a workflow rule that fired. So this is telling me in real time what's happening to the database. And of course, this log can be huge in a large system. You might have 50 people doing all kinds of things. So you can filter this list with a little filter up top. If I'm looking for the actions of a single user, I can pick just Homer. I could pick, you know, on a specific date, I want to know what he did last Friday. He did nothing. We'll go back to last Thursday.
They don't talk about me.
Did I not do anything 2 weeks ago? Here we go. And then there's also entities. I want to see what happened to my deals module. Nothing. So I can also have users like just who deleted what records. Let me go back to all days here, and I'll go to all accounts. I can see that Homer deleted 2 records back on April 9th. So The audit log, if you're looking for who deleted 1,000 records, it's right here. Or who bulk changed a bunch of stuff. You can just tell what's going on with the database. You can also export the log over here. I think it goes to a big CSV file. So it's happening. It can take a while. Obviously, there's a lot of data there. The logs don't last forever. Maybe 60 days. I don't know. Generally, I don't need to go back that farther than that in time, but if a database gets handled a lot, there's just all kinds of things happening to it, and this will tell you what's going on. Another neat data feature of while we're here is we have something called the recycle bin. And the recycle bin is where deleted data goes. So if somebody deletes a record, and if you come from a system like Actor Goldmine, you know that that record is gone forever. You have to restore it from a backup. It's a lot of work. In Zoho, it goes to the recycle bin. And you can get it back for up to 60 days. So just to show how this works, I will go to a lead Smith here. We will delete them. Actually, I'm going to do an account. I'll take the Springfield Nuclear Power Plant, and I will delete this. Now, the thing about this company is it has 2 contacts, it has a deal, it has closed activities. There's more than just the account here, but there's a lot of things related to it. And when I hit delete, it's going to warn me that all associated activities, contacts, deals, quotes, everything associated with it will also be deleted. You don't want an orphaned activity out there not connected to a person or a company. So I move it, and now it's gone. I go to setup, and I go to the recycle bin, and here's all the records that I just deleted. I only deleted Springfield, but it got rid of Homer and Wayland. So what I can do is grab them all and restore them. And they're back. So if you do something dumb like, what's that, Bob?
No, well, I was going to say, does it give them new Zoho IDs, but it probably doesn't. So
no,
I corrected myself. Sorry.
So this is an administrative function, but if someone comes to you and says, hey, I accidentally deleted our #1 account with all their tons and tons of phone calls and so forth, you can get them back. It's a nice feature to have. It is not something people are aware of. They kind of go crazy. It also means you don't need to make hourly backups of your data. You can get back things you lose without having to restore backups. So our next topic will be backups. There's a thing here called data backup, and Zoho will give you 2 free backups a month, and you can buy more. You don't get to back up every hour. You don't really want to back up every hour. So you go in here and you set up your backup rules. They recommend twice a month. You kind of pick, like, you want to do it every Thursday. It'd be every alternate Thursday, so every 2 weeks. You can make a backup right now if you have something. You're about to do something really dangerous and you're not, you're a little afraid that you might need to go back. You could always get a backup on demand. They might charge you $10 for it, depending on where you're at in your pay cycle. If I turn this on, it is now on. And this is a demo system, so I'm going to stop it. But what happens is they make a backup. Again, it backs up 2 things. There's a little bit of scariness here with these backups. We've learned the hard way. It backs up all your data into one giant zip file. You'll have a zip file. When you unzip it, you'll have about 15 smaller CSV files. Oh, we got one already, called data.zip. We'll actually look at it. And then it will also take all of your attached files. Those are your documents that you've attached to a contact record. Those are your templates. And those will be in a attachments.zip. So you'll get these 2 zips. If I click on this, what you'll get if it's scheduled is you'll get an email every 2 weeks saying your backup is done and click on it here to download it. And they only hold it for a certain amount of time.
7 days.
7 days. Yep, it's right there, 7 days. So
Sorry.
they won't hold your backups forever. You have to download them, and just, if I click on this, it'll download into my downloads folder, and it's done. I'll open the folder. It actually put a 4 on here because I've downloaded some of mine. I'm going to open this just to show you that it's data. And if I click on data, here's the accounts, the calls, the contacts, the deals, the events, the layouts. So these are all the individual CSV files. There's my deals. You can use these through the Zoho import wizard to restore your data. What does not back up are your customized layouts, your workflows, and your custom functions.
Ooh.
So you'll want to back those up separately. In other words, you cannot restore an entire system from these backups. I can get the data back, but the functions and all the, say down here in the developer space, the workflows and the custom functions and any widgets you write, those are not part of it. So it's not a full backup. It is all your data, and it is all your attachments in a nice format. So you can turn this on, and I recommend everybody do it, just because you'll have, if you need a backup, you'll have one, just because it's a little robot running in the background. And so what we've done so far is we've looked at timeline on a record to say how did a record get like this. We've looked at the audit log to see what activity is going into the system, and we've looked at the recycle bin to retrieve deleted records, and then we have a backup. Actually, one little thing here, this is for Bob more than anybody. If I go to this backup file, let me open it up again. One of the data here is, we don't have any in here, emails. Attached emails to a record can be, like, if you want to report on them or move them or import them or export them, emails will be in here.
What's in metadata?
Territories, roles, files. Yeah, that's cool.
All right. Yeah.
Good question.
Thank you.
Let me go find one of my backups. Sorry, going through here.
You don't clean that often.
No, I don't. So here's data. So here's a backup of our CRM system.
Do you really want us to see your download directory?
No, yeah, probably not. But if I go here, this is our real backup, and this is, many megs of data. Here's emails, Bob. Again, it's only one case. That doesn't seem right. Maybe this is somebody else's backup, because I just saw a different one. Here's a data backup that's 60 megs. That's probably ours. And see, the emails is 700 megs, or compressed, but it blows up to 7 megs. So there's quite a bit of stuff in here. It's a good way to get all data out of a system. So that's backups. The next thing I wanted to talk about was mass updates. Kind of simple, but this is something we all need to do sometimes. If I go to my contacts here, I'll just grab them all, and I want them all to say something. I want to change their status, and I could say, well, not him and not him, but everybody else. I want to do a mass update. I want to go in and change their, their status to state field.
Yeah, that's demo data.
Yeah, we probably cleaned it. We'll change the, I don't know, the title to president. So you might want to run through a database. I'm doing it right now with our database. I'm updating some mailing preferences for emailing, about to do a mailing. So I have a field called mailing, and then I say, well, if they get an ACT newsletter or a Zoho newsletter. But I can filter my database. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
No, I'll ask after the meeting. It's not, doesn't pertain to this.
Yeah, so anyway, Homer is now a president. So I could have like built a list of all the people whose ID status is blank and then gone in, checked them off and said, make them all say customer or prospect or something. It's a way to clean up your database. You don't have to go into each record and edit it individually. You can do a mass update. One of the fields you cannot mass update are lookup fields like owner. There is a change owner here. I can just give all these fields to a new person. And you can also do a mass delete. Be careful, but you know you can get them back. It's just you might be checking a lot of stuff to get them back. You got to go find them out of the recycle bin, which can get big. I think I'll stop there unless anybody has any questions. So to summarize, you know, there's a lot of fingerprints left on a record. You can go to a record, look in the timeline and see what's been going on with that record. In fact, how it used to be in the past. You can go to the audit log to see what's going on with the database. You can then go to the recycle bin and get back deleted records. And then you can also make backups if you're worried about losing data. So to me, this is a, I don't know, much more robust system. Deleting data is not nearly as scary as it used to be, and you don't need to rely as much on a backup. That's something that, you know, I can speak for Bob and me, having been in the IT world for 30 years. You're only as good as your last backup, right? And quite often people would have a catastrophe, hard drive would crash, and then they learned that their backup, oh, see, my backup is ready for download. So you get a pop-up. This person would have gotten an email saying his backup is ready. So you get that email now every 2 weeks. I think I'll go in and turn that off. Don't want to waste their time. Stop the backup. There would have been attachments here, but there's probably no attachments in our download database. And then, of course, I can see who grabbed the backup, just in case one of your employees somehow granted himself admin rights and made a backup and he didn't want that. So we had timeline, audit log, restore deleted records in the recycle bin, and make a weekly backup. The last thing you might want to do, I'm going to bring this up as along the lines of a backup, is a sandbox. And what a sandbox does is it creates an empty copy of your database. There's no data in it, but all your screens, all of your workflows, functions are copied. So that's a way to get a copy of those things without that, because they don't appear in the backup set. And you still want to maybe make a copy of all your functions in custom code. What the sandbox is meant to be for is it makes an empty copy of your database, and then you can build new code and test it there without putting it in production. I find it to be half useful. We'll probably talk about Sandbox at some point down the road. It's more for developers who need to make a lot of changes. They don't want to be changing the airplane while they're flying it in production. So you can make all your changes here and then push them down into production once you've tested them. I find that because it's empty data, sometimes I can't do a lot of testing because I need data to test against, and more than just adding one record. I have to explain it, but in real life, it's sometimes tough to do certain things in the sandbox. You got to really be in the system where all the data is. But it is a way to make a backup of all your kind of configuration stuff. Not your data, but all your workflows, so forth. So we did a lot of data administration today. We've talked about importing in the past, but there's backup. I could remove sample data. All this is the one-time thing. You won't normally see it, but when you first get Zoho, they ask you if you want it to be populated with sample data, just so you have something to look at and play with. Mostly for trial users who are trying to evaluate the system. At some point, you want to get those names out. But if I did that here, I added the sample data. All the stuff has the word sample in it afterwards. They put in 10 names and they put in 10 deals and 10 accounts just to, you can see exactly how things look and work. And then they do give you the option later on to remove it. You won't see that if you've already removed it or if you never put it on. Last thing, as long as it's here and we're under data administration, storage, you are limited as to how much data you can store in Zoho. The limits are large. I've never really run into anybody who exceeded them. How much storage you have is a function of how many licenses you buy. And we have this demo system here is a 2-user system. We're allowed 10 gigs of storage, and that's per company, just to start with. And then each user gets 20 megabytes of storage, and so there's only 2 of us, 2 people in this demo system. And so we're allowed 10.04 gigs, and we've used 278K. So we haven't used hardly anything. Then they tell you down here where it's all sitting. This is data. Over here is file storage. This is if I attach files into a record, like a Word document or a spreadsheet or pictures, and they give me 3 gigs of file storage, and I've used none of it here in this system. So how much you get is a function of how much you buy. It is quite a bit. If you're going to store a lot of files, I have some customers who are in, say, the construction industry. They take a lot of pictures, and we use WorkDrive for that. You don't have to keep those attached photos in CRM. You can actually put them in Dropbox, Google Drive, or Zoho WorkDrive, where you get way more storage. And you can just point to them in CRM. You don't have to keep them in CRM. So even though there is a limit here, you probably won't find this limiting because you've got other options. And so this is all the features in data administration, which we call data tricks. Sometimes we get asked a lot to do forensics, especially for 2 reasons. One is you got a user who doesn't know what he's doing. He's deleting stuff, or he's swiping accounts. We can go in there with a timeline and find it. And then the other thing is when we start writing workflows, sometimes workflows just take off and send out, 10 million emails. You want to see what workflow did that and when it did it and, what the trigger conditions were. So we can go in here and use these tools kind of forensically. Okay, so that is data tricks. I don't know next week's topic, but it'll always be good. Let's stop